The bright morning sun poured through the towering glass windows of one of the city's most prestigious corporate headquarters, but inside the elegant lobby, something happened that made every employee stop and stare. A hardworking single father, dressed in a carefully pressed but inexpensive shirt, stood silently holding his lunch container after being told by the company's powerful CEO that someone like him should eat with the maintenance staff instead of the executives. The humiliation burned across his face, yet he lowered his eyes, swallowed his pride, and quietly walked away. What nobody expected was that only minutes later, the CEO's elderly mother would enter the staff cafeteria, sit beside the single dad, and change everyone's lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is never a weakness and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment sharing where you're watching from, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad so you never miss another emotional story that reminds us what truly matters in life. Morning sunlight filled every corner of the massive headquarters as employees hurried through revolving doors carrying coffee cups and expensive briefcases. The building represented success, ambition, and power. Every polished floor reflected years of achievement, yet behind its perfect appearance existed invisible walls that divided people according to their job titles. Executives occupied luxurious offices overlooking the skyline, while cleaners, drivers, and maintenance workers quietly kept everything running without receiving much recognition. Among them was Corbin Hale, a 34-year-old widower raising his 7-year-old son, Milo, completely on his own. Every morning before sunrise, Corbin prepared breakfast, packed Milo's lunch, helped him get ready for school, and then rushed across town to reach work before anyone noticed he had once again sacrificed sleep to care for his child. His salary barely covered rent, groceries, school supplies, and medical bills left behind after his wife's long illness. Still, he never complained. His greatest source of pride was seeing Milo smile despite everything they had lost. Corbin had recently been promoted from the warehouse division to the facilities coordination team inside the company's headquarters. It was his first opportunity to work in the main office, and he hoped that if he worked hard enough, more doors would eventually open. He believed that respect came through honesty and dedication rather than titles or expensive clothing. Unfortunately, the company's young CEO, Vivian Ashcroft, believed something entirely different. Brilliant in business but hardened by years of chasing perfection, Vivian judged people almost instantly. Appearance mattered to her. Status mattered. Reputation mattered. She believed strict hierarchy maintained excellence, and she rarely questioned whether her decisions affected the dignity of others. That morning happened to be the quarterly executive luncheon. Employees carrying catered meals filled the executive dining room while staff members gathered separately in a modest cafeteria downstairs. Corbin, unaware of the unwritten traditions, entered the executive dining area simply because another employee had told him lunch was being served there. He quietly found an empty chair near the corner, hoping to eat quickly before returning to work. His homemade meal consisted of rice, vegetables, and roasted chicken prepared the previous evening with Milo. It wasn't fancy, but it reminded him of home. The room suddenly became silent. Vivian noticed him immediately. Without raising her voice, she calmly informed him that executive dining was reserved for management and that facilities employees should eat with the staff downstairs. Her words remained polite enough to avoid open criticism, yet their meaning cut far deeper than shouting ever could. Every executive watched as Corbin carefully closed his lunch container, nodded respectfully, and walked out without defending himself. The elevator ride down felt endless. Inside the staff cafeteria, cleaners, receptionists, security guards, and maintenance workers welcomed him with warm smiles. They had all experienced moments when they felt invisible. Corbin thanked them quietly and sat alone near a window where sunlight warmed the old wooden table. A few minutes later, something extraordinary happened. An elegant elderly woman entered the cafeteria accompanied only by a driver. Nobody recognized her immediately except a longtime receptionist whose eyes widened with surprise. It was Eleanor Ashcroft. She wasn't merely a visitor. She was the founder of the company. More importantly, she was Vivian's mother. Ignoring every available table, Eleanor carried her tray directly toward Corbin and politely asked if the seat beside him was available. Confused but respectful, Corbin immediately stood and offered her the chair. Employees across the cafeteria watched in complete silence. Eleanor smiled warmly before opening her meal. Instead of beginning to eat, she noticed Corbin's homemade lunch and complimented how carefully it had been prepared. Corbin explained that his son enjoyed helping him cook because it made evenings feel less lonely after losing his mother. Those simple words touched Eleanor deeply. Years earlier, before wealth transformed her family's life, she had also raised a child while struggling through impossible circumstances. She remembered skipping meals so her daughter could eat. She remembered cleaning offices late at night while dreaming of building something meaningful. Those memories had never disappeared, even though success eventually arrived. She asked Corbin about Milo. His face instantly brightened. He described a cheerful little boy who loved drawing airplanes, reading adventure books, and believing every difficult day eventually led to something beautiful. Corbin admitted that every decision he made centered around giving Milo opportunities he himself had never received. Eleanor listened quietly, realizing she had just met a man whose greatest wealth wasn't money but character. Word traveled upstairs remarkably fast. Vivian learned that her own mother was eating lunch in the staff cafeteria beside the employee she had sent away only moments earlier. Embarrassed and confused, she hurried downstairs. The sight waiting for her stopped her completely. Her mother wasn't simply sharing a table with Corbin. She was laughing. Employees surrounding them looked happier than anyone had seen in months. Without anger or public criticism, Eleanor invited Vivian to join them. For several uncomfortable moments, nobody spoke. Then Eleanor gently asked her daughter a simple question. She wondered whether leadership should create distance between people or inspire them to become better together. Vivian had spent years mastering financial reports, acquisitions, and negotiations. Yet she found herself unable to answer. Over the following days, Eleanor remained at headquarters reviewing company culture instead of financial performance. She walked through every department, spoke with receptionists, janitors, warehouse workers, and interns. Everywhere she went, one name repeatedly surfaced. Corbin Hale. Employees described him as dependable, patient, and generous. Several admitted he often stayed late helping coworkers finish tasks without expecting recognition. Others revealed he quietly purchased groceries for struggling colleagues and never allowed anyone to know the gifts came from him. Meanwhile, Vivian began observing him from a distance. She noticed how respectfully he greeted everyone regardless of position. She saw him fixing broken equipment before anyone requested assistance. She watched him answer stressful situations calmly rather than blaming others. For the first time in years, she questioned whether she had mistaken authority for leadership. One rainy afternoon, disaster struck. A major electrical failure threatened to shut down critical operations during an important international presentation. Panic spread throughout the building. While executives argued over responsibility, Corbin immediately organized maintenance teams, coordinated emergency repairs, and protected sensitive equipment from damage. Hours later, power returned just in time to prevent millions of dollars in losses. When asked how he managed everything so efficiently, Corbin simply explained that raising a child alone had taught him never to waste precious moments complaining when people needed help. Those words echoed through the boardroom. Soon afterward, Eleanor recommended creating a new employee leadership council representing workers from every department instead of only executives. Her first nomination surprised everyone. Corbin Hale. Some directors objected because he lacked prestigious qualifications. Eleanor calmly reminded them that character could never be purchased with degrees or titles. Vivian voted in favor. Weeks later, the company hosted its annual Family Appreciation Day. Parents proudly introduced children, spouses, and grandparents to coworkers. Corbin arrived holding Milo's hand. The little boy looked around with enormous curiosity, amazed by the towering building where his father worked so hard each day. Vivian knelt to greet him personally. Instead of discussing business, she admired his sketchbook filled with colorful airplane drawings. Milo shyly admitted he wanted to become an engineer someday so he could build planes that connected families separated by long distances. His innocent dream melted something inside Vivian that years of corporate success never could. Later that afternoon, Eleanor quietly watched Milo hugging his father after receiving a simple company gift bag. She realized genuine success wasn't measured by quarterly profits but by moments exactly like this. Within months, meaningful changes spread throughout the organization. Executive and staff dining areas became one welcoming cafeteria. Recognition programs celebrated kindness alongside performance. Managers received leadership training focused on empathy and respect. Employee satisfaction reached record levels. The company's financial performance improved as well, proving compassion and excellence were never enemies. One quiet morning almost a year after that unforgettable lunch, Corbin sat once again near the same cafeteria window where everything had changed. This time, executives, interns, security guards, accountants, and cleaners shared the same room. Nobody cared who earned the highest salary. People simply enjoyed eating together. Vivian approached carrying her own homemade lunch. She thanked Corbin privately for teaching her a lesson no business school ever could. She admitted that leadership begins the moment people feel seen, valued, and respected. Corbin accepted her gratitude with the same humility he had shown from the beginning. He never held resentment. He only hoped the company would become a place where no employee ever felt invisible again. Years later, employees still remembered the morning when one quiet single father walked into the wrong dining room and unknowingly transformed an entire company. They remembered the elderly woman who chose character over status. Most of all, they remembered that true greatness is revealed not by the table where someone sits, but by the kindness they bring to everyone around them. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad because every act of kindness deserves to be remembered. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe respect should never depend on someone's job title. As the afternoon sun poured through the cafeteria windows, Corbin looked across the room and saw people from every level of the company laughing together over lunch. He smiled, knowing Milo would grow up in a world that still had people willing to stand beside the overlooked instead of above them. Sometimes the smallest act of dignity begins a chain of compassion that changes countless lives. And sometimes, all it takes is one person choosing the empty chair beside someone everyone else ignored.